Sorry.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the January 19th meeting of the Temple Terrace City Council. I'd like to remind everybody to please turn off or silence your electronic devices. And if you would, please stand with me for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Lord, we thank you always for your many blessings. Help us to complete our work here tonight in a spirit of gratitude, cooperation, and service. We pray tonight for those less fortunate than ourselves. Help us all, elected officials and citizens alike, to always be mindful of our duty to advance the common good of all. We pray for peace in our country during these difficult times. Help us to resolve our differences in ways that build up our country, not weaken it through violence, destruction, and hatred. Finally, we pray tonight in a special way for the family of Sergeant Brian Levine, who was laid to rest today. We ask you to send your spirit of comfort upon his family and the members of the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office as they grieve his tragic death. We ask these things as one community, one people, united in purpose. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again. First item of business is a presentation. We have a presentation on the revisions to the purchasing article. A presentation by Finance Director Lynn Boswell. Welcome, Ms. Boswell.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, council members. I have a quick presentation you should have had in your pocket. Yay, it's right there. The Finance Department has been tasked, according to your strategic plan, to review the purchasing manual. In Objective 10C of your strategic plan, it says to reform purchasing policies for consistency with ordinance statutes and best practices. Accordingly, this presentation is going to talk about one of the best practices that we find would be much more efficient in our department and for the city as a whole.
We do that every meeting.
Do that every meeting? One of them is go. I thought right was go. Is it on? So no. Oh, there we go. For the past couple of years since I have been here, I have been reviewing your purchasing code in the ordinances. And it talks about the purchases, competitive bidding. It also has the updates that the code has gone through. Just to give you a little bit of a history, in 1990, the limit that we needed to go to for the council to approve was $7,500. In 2005, it got amended to $15,000. And then 2009, amended again to $25,000. It is now 2021, and the recommendation is to go from $25,000 to $50,000. The reasons I have set before you, it is, for us, much more efficient. We see that there's not a whole lot of these, that there's about 25 in a fiscal year, and when you're multiplying that time with putting it in, getting it ready for council approval for things that are just between the $25,000 and the $50,000 range, the pieces of equipment have gone up enough that it just is now starting to get into the threshold where we hadn't had to do that in the past. So once before, when your vehicles were $15,000, when your vehicles were $20,000, they were already in your budget, it would go ahead and get approved. Now your vehicles are $25,000 and one, or $25,010. Now that triggers us to have to come before you and ask you to approve that right away, even though these things are already in the budget. What our job is in the finance department is to see what is the best practice, what is going on around us, and how can we become more efficient, because we're seeing some of these projects come in a little bit late because of not necessarily the RFP process. The RFP process we can get done in about maybe 4 to 6 weeks. It's also the process of being able to come over, get the agenda item, get the resolutions done, get all of those things in order, and each time, each week, each day is a delay. And we see this especially in finance as well. The efficiencies that it would create, as you can see, is the timeliness, the completion, and we believe this to be the reflection of the current market rates for these items right now. Prices are just getting more expensive. This does not bypass the process at all. We still do quotes. We still will have to go out for bid. All this does is just raise the threshold for approvals from 25 to 50,000 that comes before you. That's all that it is doing. We made a comparison that was also in your packet, and it's just a very brief comparison. We don't want to be behind the curve. We don't want to be in the middle of the curve, but we want to kind of stay where our organization, which we belong to, the Government Finance Officers Association, we want to stay pretty much in that area, in that realm. We don't want to lead. We're not doing anything differently. We have other jurisdictions that are already have gone through this or gone past this, but for the city of Temple Terrace, we believe that the 50,000 threshold is actually a reasonable one. The revisions in the ordinance is actually very simple. It just raises it from 25 to 50,000. That is the biggest meat part of the content of the ordinance that we would request that you would consider. The other pieces are just wording here, a wording there that doesn't actually change the process, a clarification here, a clarification there, nothing more. It does not change, once again, it does not change what we have been doing at all. It just raises the thresholds. Finance has reviewed the ordinances. It's been also reviewed by the city manager and the city attorney, and we've done very, very little to change this ordinance, and historically we haven't. We've only just kind of looked at the limits, and that's about it. And the recommendation here is to increase that bid threshold to 50,000 for the efficiencies of time and procedures. And my question to you tonight is if this is something that you would be willing to entertain, and two, if you have any other direction or questions in regards to why we do want to go ahead and raise that threshold.
Does that conclude your presentation?
That is it. Mine's not very long. I just like to get right to the point.
Council member, questions?
I appreciate that. I do have a question.
Vice Mayor Donahue.
So what you're saying is that the example you gave was that just a little over 25,000 throws you into this situation. What is your range? Why would you not go to 35 instead of all the way to double it of 50?
It's a great question. The reason why we want to double it is we have looked at some of the best practices that are around us. And we see that most of the best practices is actually at the $50,000 range, which is where I feel that we're going. Based on our experience in finance, it can range. It can go from 25 to 35, but sometimes it may go just up to that particular threshold. We just think it's going to catch a lot more of that and help us become more efficient. Even after the 35,000 threshold, we feel like 50,000, that's a really good, solid limit. And we don't want to go beyond that without you all knowing or understanding what's going on with the purchases that we are making on an item that costs more than that. With the exception, of course, with any kind of emergency purchases, that is the only exception. And that is the reason we went to the 50. We wanted to see what's going on around us, who's doing it, why are they doing it, and why have they changed it from this to that. And at this time, We feel, and we may change that in 6 years again, who knows? But at this time, we feel that the 50,000 would help us with the increase in efficiency. We've got really great directors here. They're so amazing. They don't abuse any of these processes at all. And sometimes they get overly cautious and want to make sure, hey, did we get all of these done? And we also double check that as well. Yes, okay, it complies with all of that. You can. However, don't forget you've got to send this to council. And that usually happens. And their bids or their quotes or their RFPs, they're pretty solid. So your directors do a fantastic job of that. And then it gets to our place, and then it just seems like it just takes so long to get the ball rolling on something. And for me, something smaller than 50,000, we ought to just go ahead and be able to get that done completely, especially since you all have already budgeted and approved that particular item.
Councilmember Chambers.
Thank you. A couple questions. The new threshold, later in the meeting under consent agenda, we're going to purchase a vehicle for $26,500. So in the future, that would not come to us.
That is correct.
Okay, second thing, it's being piggybacked on a sheriff's bid. With the threshold of bids being 50,000, do you even use the sheriff's anymore, or you'll still use that?
We would still use that because we've got to come before you after the 50,000. So even if we're doing a piggyback, we're coming to you if it's more than 50,000.
But if it's less than 50,000, would you even look at the sheriff's bid?
We have to, in finance, we do look at the sheriff's bid, because when they say we want to piggyback, we're a little bit strict, I think. Some of the directors here will attest to that, because I will say, where's the document that says that this is what the cost is going to be? Where's the sheriff's documentation? Where's this? Where's that? It has got to be, all the pieces have to be in there, or we don't actually even, it doesn't get past even us. I think there's a few of you that can attest to that, definitely. And that's why I was saying you've got really great directors in here, and we'll look at everything. If the document's not in there, we can't do it. I just in good conscience in our finance department, and we don't. We wait. If they get documentation, then great. But in the absence of that, it is treated like any other bid. We want to see everything as well.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Schuessler.
Yes, thank you. A good presentation. I'm glad you put the comparatives to the other jurisdictions in the area. I know we have good directors, great city manager, great finance director, but you guys aren't going to be here forever. And I have a problem with creating something that has to last for 10, 15 years before it's reviewed again. And we could be creating an issue that once the barn door is open, you can't close it again. So I like personally, just being the conservative nature that I am, I like the fact that we have another set of eyes looking at this from a council perspective. I know we look at this at budget time, but how many bids do we get when we're doing the budget for a truck or a police vehicle or whatever be the spending? I know you guys beat the devil out of the numbers, and I have full confidence in that. But I'm just a little leery of doubling our threshold, because it's things are flush right this second to change in a heartbeat, and we have to be ever mindful of what's going on. And I know you do that, but as time goes on, the next set of directors in time may not have the same philosophy and diligence to it. I could go for a bit of an increase. Has anybody looked to see how many items would not have had to come before council again over the last year or
Yes,
2 years?
25 of them.
How many?
25 of them.
25 of them would not have to come before.
That is correct.
And what's the total value of the 25?
I don't have that figure before me, but I can certainly get that.
I'd be curious to see what that's worth, because I don't know, it's just a lot of money that we're responsible for, you're responsible for, we all are ultimately responsible for it. Yeah, we see it in the budget, but we don't see final numbers in the budget. I can't believe that the capital plan and so forth that's put together is that finite at that level, that far in advance. Maybe, and if it is, I'll stand corrected. But I could go for a bit of an increase, but I don't know that I could double it. I just
If-
think that that's a bit of a piece to chew, and it takes our due diligence away from us to managing what's going on. Again, you guys are great. I have full confidence, but the next ones and the next council is going to be saddled with this. And it's an awful lot, it's a lot easier to expand it than to reduce the scope of the allowable amount. That's all I got.
May I comment? I certainly appreciate your views on that, and I haven't talked to the city manager about this because you've just brought this particular issue up. And my question to you is, would it be possible to go ahead and let you know, for example, if you do go ahead and increase the threshold to the 50, because that is the finance department's recommendation, that we go ahead and send to you at each of the meetings those ones between the 25 and 50,000 as a report, so you can see those for yourselves. That I believe will show some transparency in the things that we are doing. And that would be an easy thing for us to do. After review, if you want to revisit and say, you know what, we want to put it down, or maybe the 50,000 is not enough, or whatever you want to say, I would definitely want to offer up to you that transparency so you can see that between the 25 and 50,000 and what goes on and what's being purchased at that amount, and it's for one item, as I mentioned. Would that help allay some of those fears if we make this a regular report that we give to you each time you meet? Because it's really easy for us to put down, this is what we spent that's over 25,000 and 50 every time you all meet. That part is very easy.
I'd feel more comfortable with that, yes.
Councilmember Abel? Vice Mayor?
Well, let me make sure I understand your suggestion. Are you suggesting that we go ahead and approve this tonight, but that you give us a report, or that you're going to give us the report for the next couple of months so we can take a look at it?
Actually, this is just the presentation. So the next meeting that you have is going to be the ordinance itself. And my recommendation is that we go ahead and go forward with the ordinances and the publications, and that we go ahead and raise the threshold to the 50,000. Meantime, between now and then, now forever, now whenever, we will continue. It'll be part of a regular report that you get every time you meet as to what went from 25 to 50,000 that you did not see. I would be comfortable in doing that. It's a very easy, like I said, it's a very easy report for us to run. So that is my recommendation, that we can do this as an ordinance the next time we meet for the first hearing. See how you all feel. If you still want to see it between now and then, I don't have any issues at all getting you any kind of reports between now and then as well. So whatever your wishes are, I'm here to ask for your direction in this particular matter.
I have to, I'm sorry, are you
No,
done, Vice Mayor?
please.
I have to tell you with all respect, Ms. Boswell, I have some misgivings about this, but let me explain why. I'm not in favor of causing unnecessary work for our staff, for our employees, for finance, for the directors. But I am concerned about some of the reasons that this process exists to begin with. And let me explain. And most of them involve fairness and transparency.
Yes.
And I don't think anybody up here thinks that there's any ill intent or nefarious behavior, and I don't think anybody thinks that. But $25,000, even in 2021, is still a good chunk of money. And when we're piggybacking on a sheriff's bid and we're buying a patrol car or a pickup truck, I can see that, and I could see maybe having some discussion about, do those things really need to come to us? But even then, there's been plenty of times in recent years when our city has been faced with unexpected and drastic revenue losses or expenses that we didn't count on. And at the beginning of the budget year, I've just used the police chief as an example. He says, you know, we know we're gonna need to replace 6 cars or 4 cars, so we put, you know, $200,000 in the budget to do that. But when it comes time to actually make those purchases and it comes before us, we say, well, our revenue's down, you know, $400,000 so far due to a recession, due to a pandemic, due to whatever, you know, a fire, we have, you know, anything can happen. And therefore, even though we thought we were gonna spend that money on this, we need to delay it for another year, or maybe we only buy 3 of them, or 2 of them, or 1 of them, or whatever. And so I think that the transparency, the other thing about the transparency is when you have to do it, you know, come before us and you say, look, we want to buy a pickup truck, or we want to buy a body cameras, or we want to buy whatever it is, and it's, you know, $40,000. It's done here on television, on YouTube, in front of the public, and they all have an opportunity to stand up and say, well, wait a minute, I didn't like the way that was done, and, you know, this is our money and nobody asked us, and you know, it gives the public some assurance that these things are vetted publicly. The other side to this is that one of the reasons that the bid process exists is to ensure the taxpayer is getting the best value, but it also exists to make sure all members of the public get an opportunity to bid on purchases that are made with public money. And so, you know, if we have, and I'm not suggesting, like I said, anybody's doing anything nefarious, but people being people, if we always use, you know, Jim Jones plumbing, every time something blows up, you know, Jim Jones is our plumber. Well, you know, what about the other plumber that doesn't get any opportunity now to bid on Temple Terrace work unless it's over $50,000?
This doesn't change the bid process at all.
Yes, it does. According to the backup material, it ups it from 25 to 50. You keep saying it doesn't change. It does. It doubles it.
It doesn't actually change the bid process. You still have to go through the process. Anything that's over $1,000, you still have to get the quotes. You still have to get the bids. You still will have to get RFP at a certain rate. And there are certain infrastructure, you can't avoid it. It doesn't even matter if it's $14,000. We're not bypassing that at all. We're not bypassing any of those processes at all. All that we are requesting is the threshold that comes before you.
That's not
just
what
be
this
changed,
says.
but- Oh, I
That's
must have
not what this
miswrote, I
says.
must have miswrote this.
This
then.
says competitive sealed bids will change from 25 to 50, and council approval will change from 25 to 50.
The competitive sealed bids will still be competitive sealed bids as required, because one of the other issues that is in here that I may not have put down is we still have to comply with the Florida statutes. And we can't just willy-nilly decide that, okay, it's over 25,000, so we don't have to bid it. It actually depends on what it is. And there is opportunity that you just can't go to whoever you want to. What this does is just changes that from the council to the city manager.
Okay,
That's all that it does.
let me ask you this then, because I
Yes.
misunderstand.
Yes,
This says, the backup material from you to us,
yes,
on the first page, it says Temple Terrace current, competitive sealed bids, $25,000, council approval, $25,000. Temple Terrace proposed, competitive sealed bids, $50,000, council approval, $50,000. So what does that mean?
that means competitive sealed bids up to the $50,000. That being said, I don't believe that I have that in that actual ordinance. If my recommendation would be, take a look at the ordinance. If there are pieces of it that you don't like, that you don't want to raise the threshold, obviously you have that choice at that time. If there are the other pieces, though, that you would feel comfortable in raising that threshold, those are the ones that I'm talking about to do a little bit more efficiency in that. Even at 25,000, I still have to have 3 quotes, unless they go piggyback or anything like that. Yes.
Well, let her answer and then you, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so even all capital items, for example, anything right now that's over 1,000 or over 5,000, I have to have 3 quotes. Maybe some things don't require sealed bids, maybe some things do, but I have to have my quotes. I have to have all the backup information. It doesn't really matter that it is 5,000, 10,000, 15, or 20. I have got to have all that material. The part that we are addressing are the ones that come to you as council, and that threshold to be 50,000.
Councilman Chambers?
Yeah, okay, what I would like to see, I'm not willing to make any kind of decision tonight. We're asking too many questions, so how about if we ask staff to come back with us a report? I'd like to know how many of these bids would have changed, how many over the last year hasn't come back to us. That's me, if you guys agree with that. Get some of those numbers and answer the question about the sealed bid, and I think the mayor is correct. You know, there's a difference between sealed bids coming to council and quotes. You know, if you're gonna resurface, and I use what I know, I'm sorry, tennis courts, and it's $40,000, now I would have to formally advertise, we would formally advertise, and it would go in the newspaper, go in all the different publications, and you get sealed bids. It's opened here at the dais under the bid process. In the new $50,000 threshold, I don't think that happens.
I still have to have quotes.
You have to have quotes, but that's not the sealed bid issue. So that's what I would like to see, that we get some more information and we put this off into a later date. It's not critical. I mean, we don't have to do it this week.
Well, I think if I understand correctly, you're looking for a decision from us, though, whether to start to amend this ordinance or not. So if we tell them to move forward, they're gonna go,
I'm not willing to move forward with the number changes until I get more.
no, but I mean, the ordinance would still have to come before us twice, but I don't think they wanna do the work to amend the ordinance if we're not interested.
I'm not willing to do that. Me personally, no.
Is that what you're looking for tonight? Just for us to give you kind of a thumbs up to know whether to go to do the work to?
That is correct. To go forward with the public hearing for the first reading of the ordinance.
Okay. City manager?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just to kind of recap here, we're looking to increase efficiency. That's the whole purpose of doing this. The process of either obtaining bids or doing the sealed bids does change the threshold that generates that sealed bid formal process, okay? We still have to get bids as we would in the past. There are numerous things that we have done here in recent years that come before council that we don't think really need to come before council or come before council from a sealed bid format, such as resurfacing a road. You know, that's built into the budget. Certainly, you don't get much seal done for $25,000, so we've got to go through that bid process. That bid process costs us 6 to 8 weeks every time we do something like that. Just from the time. We're not trying to change the process as much as we are just the threshold that triggers the process. So just to, again, to understand, we don't want to start redoing an ordinance here if we don't have some council direction to do that. That threshold certainly is one of those things that's got to be built into the ordinance. If there is some lesser amount that council would be comfortable with, I'd be more than happy to go in that direction. We've tried to provide you with some regional partners that have done this in the past as well. But the ordinance will still have to come before council for approval, public hearing. It'll come before you twice. As a presentation as far as what the ordinance change is. So, again, this is just a presentation tonight. This is not a decision time, other than we just need to get a little bit of direction on do we want to do this or don't we want to do this? But the primary goal of this is just for making things a little bit more efficient, and we're looking for efficiency. And if 50,000 makes people uncomfortable, I can understand that. But if you can give us some lesser amount to work off of, we will certainly get this ball rolling just a little bit.
Okay, council members, another question or two, and then we need to get into what we want them to do. So go ahead, Mr. Sister.
I would prefer to stay at the 25 because it's transparency, not just us, but the people who are here and the people who are watching on TV, and they can go back and look at it. It gives everybody, you know, it's their money. It's not our money. It's the taxpayers' money. And it gives them the comfort in knowing that we're doing everything and we're beating everything we can. And it's all open. It's all above board and everybody knows it. So that's, I would be happy to stay at the 25.
Other council members, Councilmember Abel?
I would like to see the bids that were between 25,000 and 50,000, or not the bids, but the purchases within the last year that you said. I would be willing to consider raising the threshold. I would just like to see how close that was to 25 versus 50, because efficiency is really important and it really helps make everyone's job easier in government.
And one of your directors actually reminded me, sometimes they don't have the personnel to pull a full RFP together, and that's some of the limitations that we have. It's one of the reasons we've been working on this for, actually, I know behind the scenes, we've been working on this for 2 years. And I know that I've spoken to all the directors, and this is something, like I said, that we agree on. We may disagree on a lot of different things in each of our departments. This particular issue, though, they really were looking forward to in terms of efficiency, time, and getting the things done that they need to get done in a more efficient manner. So it would be really great also if you have an opportunity to go through Charles and also get their thoughts on that as well. I would really like that, because this isn't just finance. My job is to get all the information from all the different departments and get their ideas and thoughts. And this is kind of where we landed on that when it came to this ordinance. Okay?
Council members, what do we want them to do?
Well,
Vice Mayor?
I liked what I thought you said in the beginning, that you would come back to us and, just like Councilwoman Abel said, bring us some statistics on either what you're anticipating will hit this, go over this $25,000 threshold. I know when you're building the budget, you know how many trucks you need to buy, or, you know, and obviously the road surfacing is completely different animal. But I would like to see those two, and I agree that efficiency costs money, inefficiency costs money. So I'm not opposed to going up, but I don't know that I can go up twice as much. That's a big chunk. I would lean more in the 35,000 range rather than the 50,000 range, but I'd really like to see, if you could bring that back to us, that would be very helpful.
That would be great. In 2005, you guys doubled it. Went from 7,500 to 15,000.
Okay, so I think what the council's asking you to do, if I can summarize this, make sure I have this correct, is the council would like to see how many purchases fall between 25 and 50 to have a better gauge of how much impact this is going
And
to
what
actually
they are.
have. I'm sorry?
And actually what they are.
And what they are. I will tell you that I mean, I will look at this with an open mind.
Okay.
But I'm not with you on this right now. I can tell you that efficiency is always the slope that works against transparency. It's always easier. We don't have to bid anymore. I can just spend up to 49,000. You know, the road paving example, the tennis court example is great, unless you're another tennis court finisher who never gets to bid on Temple Terrace work anymore, because now it's a $50,000 threshold instead of a 25. So I'm not digging in. I'm just saying, right now, I'm not getting a warm fuzzy about this. So
I would like to add to the report, if you wouldn't mind, in that addition to the report that you were asking for, I would like to get the department's input on the time that it took from start to end.
yeah, but see, Lynn, I don't mean any disrespect with this, and I don't mean any disrespect to the directors, but our primary purpose here is not the ease of the staff. Our primary purpose here is to be stewards, good stewards of the public money. And so, I've lived this life of public service for 30 some odd years. I know what a pain in the neck it is for government procurement. I got to get bids. I got to, it's a pain. I get it. I know. I lived that. But it also ensures a lot more level playing field for everybody, and the public transparency and all the things that go. I mean, there's a reason that it's a pain. So anyway, I've said enough. But we'll see. I mean, I try to remain open-minded, but
Okay. No, I think that's great. So I definitely will get that list to you. And I do want to add the department's input as to kind of their time. And I would really like to get their input into their thoughts because, like I said, we really have fantastic people. We are all of us, the checking, the double checking, I think is really important. And as I mentioned, if you get a list every meeting of here are those
Yeah,
things.
but a
that can
list
help
after the
us.
fact, first of all, the public doesn't get the list. The public doesn't get the comment on the list. We see it. And there's still no public comment. And there's still no discussion of it unless one of us brings it up, and it's after the fact. I mean, it's, oh, here's a list of what we did. Well, what are you gonna do about it? You know, we didn't like that. We wouldn't have done it. Well, we did it.
Right.
I mean, so anyway, we've spent enough time on this, but, thank you. Sorry for,
Oh, no apologies. That's what we're here for, is to get the
All right.
input.
thank you,
Great.
Ms. Boswell.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Boswell.
Next item on the agenda is a Police Pension Board appointment ratification. In accordance with City Code, 5 members serve on the Police Officers Pension Board of Trustees. 2 members are city representatives. 2 members are elected by the City of Temple Terrace police officers, and 1 resident member is elected by the board. At the board's December 18th, 2020 quarterly board meeting, the board voted and reappointed Thomas Zarella to serve in the 5th trustee seat for a term from February 1st, 21 until February 1st of 23. We are now looking for council to confirm the board's appointment of Thomas Zarella.
Move to confirm the appointment of Thomas Zarella.
Second?
Motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? Is Mr. Zarella here? I don't see him. Very good. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No nays. Mr. Zarella, thank you again for your service. Next item is approval of the January 5th, 2021 City Council meeting minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes? Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Next item is persons wishing to be heard on items not listed on the agenda or items on the consent agenda. A 3-minute time limit will be imposed on all comments from the public. We do ask that speakers approach the podium and begin by stating their name and city of residence. We'd like to assure the public that all comments by the public are taken seriously by both the council members and city manager and the directors in the audience, and all your concerns will be followed up on. I have one request. I don't think, Ms. Rennie, that this is not on the agenda. Is that correct? It's, okay. Please approach. Welcome, Ms. Rennie.
I'm going to take this down so I can breathe. Annette Rennie, 9512 Woodland Ridge Drive. By the way, the new receptacles are really nice. I see that most of them have been delivered. My reasoning tonight is I would like to see an ordinance or a code that states that people have to put their receptacles away and that they can't sit them in front of their garage along with the recycle cans. I mean, you're driving a client or just driving yourself through the terrace and you'll see they're all stacked out in front of garages. It's very unattractive. So I've looked, there is no ordinance, but I think it'd be a simple fix. The other thing I'm going to bring up is I would really like to see curbside recycling come back. I know I don't use those receptacles that are put out in strategic places because I'm not going to put recycle cans or containers in my car and haul them up there, and most people I know will not. So I know we recycle paper at the curb. I would like to see the plastic and metal come back. I know bottles and glass is no longer usable, but most people will not use those receptacles, and they're set in at the beginning of subdivisions and places that are very unattractive. So I'd like you to consider and think about that. Thanks.
Thank you. It's the only request I have. Are there other members of the public who wish to address the council? Mrs. Snelling, welcome.
Just to make this quick, Ellen Snelling, Temple Terrace. Just about the recycling, I just wanted to mention over the weekend, we went to 2 different recycling bins and they were both like completely full. So I would also love to see it come back, but I understand if it doesn't, but just so that we can all do it efficiently, if those can be emptied, I guess, regularly. The main reason I wanted to say something is about a town hall meeting that came up at the last Temple Terrace City Council meeting. And I'm just would like to be in support of having one in February. And I feel like, this meeting is handled very safely. Everyone wears masks, there's sanitizer, temperature checks. So I feel like there should be some way that we should be able to have a town hall meeting for our citizens possibly at the Lightfoot Center. And I would feel very comfortable doing that. I'm sure there'd be limits on the number of people and that type of thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other members of the public who wish to address the council on items not on the agenda? Going once, going twice? Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request for extension on a lien reduction for 418 Ferncliff Avenue. City Attorney Pam Shoshone will explain.
The Code Enforcement Board had approved a request for a lien reduction at their November meeting and then recommended to council at its December 15th meeting a reduction of a lien from $211,000 to down to $6,350. As is usual, with that approval of the reduction, council informed the property owner that they had 30 days in which to pay that reduced amount, or the amount would revert back to the $211,000. It was my understanding that the property owner was planning on selling the home, and that the reduced amount, the lien, would be paid off at the time of or shortly after closing. I'm not quite sure what happened. My understanding is that the closing did not occur, or that the sale basically fell through. And prior to the 30 days expiring, the property owner did request an extension of that 30 days to pay. I'm not sure if he's here this evening, but
He is.
okay. So I would now turn this over to the property owner to put his request to you for your decision as to whether he should have an extension on the payment of the reduced amount.
Very good, thank you. Prior to him doing that, are there questions for the city attorney?
No.
Mr. Brunstein, would you like to approach, sir? Please start with your name and city of residence.
Greg Brunstein, the loan extension, or lien extension. I've just talked to Pam, Kristen. I talked to Kristen, and I just asked for another month because the house hasn't sold yet, so, and,
Do you have a contract on it, or is it
no.
just?
I've got the new roof going on in the next 2 weeks, and then it's getting lifted, so.
What is the current date that the extension ran out? What is the date that the?
15th or 16th.
January 15th?
Yes, I believe so. It would have been 30 days after the December 15th meeting.
Okay, so not having a contract on the place, you really don't know how long it might take to.
Correct.
Questions for Mr. Brumstein?
Any nibbles?
I'm sorry, I don't think he heard you.
Sorry, any nibbles,
Yeah,
interest?
yeah. I mean, so I've got, there's a couple different ways I can do it. I've talked to someone about doing it as is, and I talked to one of my old employees from Bulls Outfitter, who's a realtor, and he's urging me not to do that because of the value of the house. The market, there's just not any houses out there, and I would be throwing money away. So we decided to put a roof on it, and he's got a roofer that will wait till the house closes to get paid. So, and then we have some other stuff to do, but that'll all get done in the next couple of weeks. So I would probably, if I could get an extension of a month or a month and a half, I think that's probably plenty of time.
Are you living in the house still?
I am right now, but we just finished moving the business to Pinellas County. So I will be looking for an apartment in Pinellas so I can get everything out of the house so it's easier to show.
Just to let the public know, I'm looking at my calendar, I'm not texting. So it looks like we have a scheduled city council meeting on February the 16th and one on March the 2nd. Just so everybody has some idea of if we wanted to correspond with council meeting dates. I don't know that we would, but just so you have that from. Anything else, Mr. Brumstein? Any other questions for Mr. Brumstein or the city attorney? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Council, what's your pleasure? Ladies and gentlemen, this property has been a long standing issue, one way or the other, for the city. It's my opinion that if we could, if Mr. Brumstein can successfully sell this house and we can honor the code board's recommendation of if we flip this back to $211,000, he's never gonna sell that house. And we're gonna be right where we've been for the past however many years. The 30-day recommendation is good policy, but it's not written in stone anywhere. That's just what we do as a matter of practice to keep from reducing it, and then people don't pay us anyway. But it's not etched in stone. We have plenty of opportunity to extend this if we choose to. So,
I'm ready to make a motion.
Vice Mayor Don?
Did you say March 3rd?
Second.
March 2nd. I move to grant the extension on 418 Ferncliff Avenue to March 2nd with full intention that if it's not paid by that, it would revert to the full amount.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Motion and second. Is there discussion on the motion?
How many days is that?
Um,
Doesn't have a
It's,
calculator in front of me.
it's over, it's a month and a half, basically, but, I'm sorry, you have the floor.
No, I was just gonna say, I just didn't need to know the days.
Well, I would go along with this. Normally, I would want to go in 30-day increments, but I don't think it's realistic to think he's going to get a contract on that house that's going to close in 30 days from tonight.
That's my thing.
Which means he'd have to come back here on February 16th. We'd have to go through this all again. If we did this on March 2nd, there is a chance that he could sell the house by then and close. If he doesn't, he can come back on March 2nd. It just reduces the chance that we'll have to do this again. So I will be in favor of it. Mr. Schiffner?
Yes. And unfortunately, I don't know that I can support the motion at this point. We are establishing a precedent that, well, we can't do it. We'll just come back and just do it again, and extend it again, extend it again. I'm sorry, the circumstances are such, I think that if we get a contract for sale and brings it back and go through the process again, then we'll review the $211,000. But the agreement was in 30 days. Unfortunately, the deal fell through, but there's no guarantee that we're not going to be back here in 45 days extending it again. Well, we did it once, we can do it again. And I think it sends out a bad message to other people who fall into the same circumstances. They don't really mean it. So I won't support the motion.
Well, I'm not trying to persuade you to change your
Yeah.
mind, but just to.
I'm not trying to be a hard,
No, please, I don't feel that way at all. Just a comment on that, though, is if we do that, and you're right, we did it once, it could get there again, but then it's got, the whole process has to start over again, which means he has to go to code board, then it has to get heard by code board, and then it has to come to us, which if that process started now, we'd be lucky to hear it on March 2nd. That process takes time, and it takes money on the part of the city. So, I mean, I get what you're saying, but,
It's not an easy answer.
no, it's not.
It'd be easy to just say, okay, fine, and then if it doesn't come back, then we got lucky. But it keeps coming back and keeps coming back, and then the next person, well, you did it before, you did it for Ferncliff, we can do it for my house. So I think we need to send a message, I'm sorry you're in the situation you're in, but this is just, we have to be careful, that's all. That's my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Sister. Any other comments on the motion? The motion, just to recap, is to extend the deadline to March the 2nd. If there are no other comments, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
One nay, Mr. Schuster. Okay. It's extended to March 2nd, Mr. Brumberg, which means the code board is still out of it. You've already been through that step. But if you don't pay it by March 2nd, you should need to be in touch with the city staff here and figure out where to go from there. And I must also tell you that, you know, and some of this is beyond your control, but if it doesn't sell and you've got no contracts, it's gonna, you know, every time this happens, it's gonna be a little further uphill to push. Okay.
Look.
Very good, thank you. Next item is the consent agenda. One item on the consent agenda is a resolution approving the purchase of a new vehicle for the Community Development Department. City Manager Charles Stevenson. Mr. Stevenson, before you start, I do want to, on behalf of the entire council and I think your staff, welcome you back. We have missed you. It's good to see you back, and we're glad to have you, and I hope you and your family are doing well.
We are, and we certainly appreciate all the condolences from everyone, and we certainly appreciate the time that council gave me to be off to take care of business. I was telling my staff today in a staff meeting, I don't know that I ever remember taking 2 weeks off. And I wish it was for a vacation, but it wasn't. But I certainly do appreciate the time off, and I know my staff did an extremely good job of taking care of business here in town. And it didn't go unnoticed by me, so thank you very much. Item 7A on the agenda, on the consent agenda, is, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution to purchase a 2021 Ford 150 for the Community Development Department. This will replace a 2000 Ford Focus that has been in the fleet with community development for some time. The cost of the truck is $26,475, being purchased from Duval Fleet Sales through the Florida Sheriff's Association bid under FSA 20-VEL 28.0. The funds will be from account 001-1321-524.64-12. This is a budgeted item in 2020-21 budget and is scheduled for replacement at this year. Resolution's there for council approval.
Very good. Being on the consent agenda, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
To approve consent agenda.
Second. Discussable motion. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No nays. Consent agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is first public hearing and reading of Ordinance 1504, approving the zoning reclassification of 7032 and 7746 Temple Terrace Highway. This has been postponed from our December 15th meeting, and I believe we're going to postpone it again. Planner Celeste Lau will explain. Welcome.
Mayor, thank you. Yes, staff feels that this item still isn't ready to come back before council, and we'd like to continue to work with the applicant to resolve some of the issues that were brought, to light by council. Therefore, staff is recommending that council postpone this item indefinitely, I guess, or no date certain really, until it is ready to come back before council.
Very good. Are there, are there questions for Ms. Lau? If not, is there a motion to postpone this item to no date certain?
So moved.
Yep. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No nays. The motion, or the ordinance is postponed. Next item on the agenda is a resolution adopting SPR 20-09, final site plan for the Florida College Activity Zone. Planner Celeste Lau will explain.
Good evening again. The item I am presenting tonight is SPR 20-09, which is a final site plan application for the Florida College Activity Zone. The property is located at 119 North Glen Arvin Avenue. Its existing use is a private college, also known as the Florida College. The property itself is 17 acres in size. However, the actual affected subject site or project area is only 0.7 acres. The applicant is proposing to create an activity zone for students. A little bit of history behind the subject site. It's located where the old Student Center building used to be, which is also where the old City Hall used to be. That Student Center building was demolished back in 2017. As stated earlier, the applicant is proposing to create an activity zone / recreation area for the students. This would include basketball courts, a volleyball court, a stage area, gazebo, and several swing structures. In that little tiny map inset there on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see that the subject site or affected area, that's the 0.7 acres, is highlighted in that black outline. And here's just a zoomed-in version of what the site would look like. The blue shows where the gazebo is going to be. The purple area is for the basketball courts. The green is for the stage / seating area. The orange is the volleyball court, and the red show the proposed swing structures. Here are some renderings that the applicant has submitted to staff. You'll see there's the swing structures, there's the gazebo, and then some more renderings. The Development Review Committee, or DRC, has reviewed and does not have any outstanding objections for this proposed site plan. City staff recommends that council approve the resolution for SPR 20-09. That concludes staff presentation. Both staff and the applicant are here to answer any questions you may have.
Good. Well, prior to questions for you, Ms. Lau, let's afford the applicant an opportunity to welcome, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, Council. Jeremy Couch with Tampa Civil, 17937 Hunting Bow Circle, Lutz. Thank you for having us tonight. Your staff is fantastic as always. This is something that the college has been thinking about for many years. In 2016, 2017, we designed a much more complex building. The college went back and thought about it, and this new activity center has a lot of outdoor area for gathering, a lot of flexibility. It's centrally located in the middle of the college, so we think it's going to be a fantastic addition. And we're here if you have any questions. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? If not, council members, do you have any questions for the applicant or staff? Vice Mayor Donahue.
I do have a question. Because this is not permanent, I wasn't sure why we needed to approve this. It doesn't change the land use at all, correct? And you could, at some point down the road, come back with that elaborate building. So none of this affects that. So
It's, I'd say, quasi-permanent. I mean, it's a gazebo and a pretty significant court, so the college is planning on this being there for a while, but you're right. I mean, redevelopment could occur sometime in the future. There's no plans that I know of to redevelop this site in the future. The college has spent years thinking about what to do with the old student center site, and the college and their board of trustees feel this is the best use.
City Manager, I think you had some comments on.
Yeah, this is just really just out of transparency and sharing it with council that there's work going on over there in case you guys get questions. It is really, it's kind of borderline whether or not it needed to come before you, but we decided as a documented site plan coming into the building that we ought to share it with you. That's all.
I appreciate that.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Other questions? Mr. Sister.
I think it's a great idea. It's a great use of the property. And again, I have the same question. Unless it's some kind of impervious permanent structure, why they really come? But your explanation, Mr. City Manager, is excellent. And I think it's important because a lot of times people say, what's going on in here? What's going on there? And unless it comes to us, we don't know about it. So it's a good idea, and I'm understand it better.
It's going to be really cool.
The picture description is excellent, and I'm looking forward to it. But I do understand why it's being brought forward, and again, not questioning. We've had situations in the past like, why did this come before us? But this one is a good descriptor to the citizens listening on TV. Thank you.
Other questions for the applicant or city
have one.
staff? Vice Mayor? Well, wait a
I
minute.
know-
Ms. Abel, you?
No.
Okay, Vice Mayor.
I know that we have all kinds of rules and regulations about putting down playground equipment. I'm assuming this is fitting within all of our city rules. It's not putting up a, 14-foot tall swing if our rule is 10 or whatever.
Yes, ma'am. We have gone through staff review. We've submitted architectural documents, civil documents. Staff has reviewed it and approved it. We've submitted documents to the Swift Mud. We've received an approval from the Swift Mud. So we feel that the proposed project has been vetted and meets all of your codes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve SPR 20-09?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No nays. Site plan is approved. Next item is a resolution approving an interlocal agreement with Hillsborough County and an EMS expenditure. Fire Chief, you can't be here because this says that your assistant fire chief's going to be here. Chief.
Yeah, he's the better man for sure, but,
Fire Chief Ian Kemp will present.
thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Ian Kemp, your fire chief. I stand before you presenting a resolution approving an interlocal agreement with Hillsborough County and also an EMS expenditure. Since the City of Temple Terrace provides emergency medical services, it is eligible to receive a portion of the State of Florida Department of Health grant allocated each year to Hillsborough County. The proposed interlocal agreement provides for the distribution of city share in the amount of $9,184. These funds must be utilized to improve or expand pre-hospital emergency medical services within the City of Temple Terrace. The budget for these funds have been approved by the State of Florida and includes the following equipment. 3 safety arm mounting systems for our Stryker patient stretchers. These systems will be used to safely mount our LifePak 12 EKG monitors. This equipment, in addition, will protect the monitor and the occupants in the back of all 3 of our rescue units. The total cost of these items is $11,090.02. The department will utilize $1,906.02 from its EMS supply budget. And that account number is 001-1521-522-52-35 to supplement that $9,184 and grant funds for a total of $11,090.02 for the purchase of these items. The purchase of equipment does support the goal 6 by ensuring the strategic connection of goal 6 by ensuring that the fire department maintains the necessary equipment to meet the demands of the existing and future call volumes. Thereby, it is recommended that the City Council adopt a resolution approving this interlocal agreement between Hillsborough County and the City of Temple Terrace for the distribution of State of Florida Department of Health grant funds to the city in the amount of $9,184, and to approve the expenditure of $1,906.20 and budgeted funds to purchase the medical equipment.
Thank you, Chief. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, council members, any questions for Chief Kemp? Question members for, okay. If not, is there a motion to approve the interlocal agreement with Hillsborough County and this EMS expenditure?
I move to approve the interlocal agreement with Hillsborough County and an EMS expenditure.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No nays? It's approved. Thank you very much, Chief. Next item is a resolution approving the execution of the Marine Resources Conservation Trust Fund Grant Interlocal Agreement. That's a mouthful. Between Hillsborough County and the City of Temple Terrace for $250,000 to be used for dock and boat ramp improvements. Leisure Services Director Carl Langfeld will explain.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Thank you for saying that mouthful. I've been back in my chair for the past half an hour rehearsing it.
You have to read that slow.
So now that you've got that out of the way, I will skip that part, but I am here to request approval of an agreement between the City of Temple Terrace and Hillsborough County in the amount of $250,000 for improvements to the city's 2 boat ramp and dock facilities. I have reached out to a couple of different contractors, Priority Marine, who does boat ramp construction, to get construction estimate costs from them. They're estimating $50,000 to $100,000 per boat ramp to do the construction there. I also met with contractor Jam 520, who is the contractor that did the renovations to the River Hills Boardwalk, to get cost estimates for the rebuilding and renovation of the docks at those facilities. That number came in right at $50,000. That $250,000 amount requested from the county will cover the renovations that we're looking to do. The agreement with the county provides for us 3 years to complete the work at those sites. One caveat in this work, the Rotary Park property is actually owned by DOT, Florida Department of Transportation, and operated and managed by the City of Temple Terrace through a cooperative use agreement. As a result, I did need to reach out to DOT to get their approval to do renovations and improvements to that property. That approval was received, and the backup material is in your packet. That allows for us to do that work. So again, requesting a resolution from council to allow the mayor to execute that contract, and I stand for any questions you may have.
Good. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, council member questions?
No, after standing on that dock, I'm delighted that you're doing that.
Mr. Sisler and then
Yeah,
Mr.
Carl,
Chambers.
didn't we do this last year? Didn't we have, wasn't there a $250,000, or was it just the approval of?
It
in the
came up
budget?
during the budget hearing over the summer that this process was being discussed, and that I was going to be reaching out to my counterparts in the county in order to get this ball rolling, to get the funds from the boat ramp registration monies to allow for this work to occur. So yes, you had heard it before as we were discussing the acquisition of these funds.
But that was our source of revenues to cover that expenditure.
Yes, sir.
Identified.
Yes, sir.
I thought it was, but I just wasn't certain. So it's on the record. Thank you.
We had discussed it at budget time and we
Right.
decided at budget time not to include it in the budget, but to pursue the funds. And if we
Right.
got the funds, we'd do it this year.
I just wanted to clarify it for everybody.
Yeah.
In the record.
Right.
Sorry. Thank you.
Mr. Chambers.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Langfeld. I know how hard you've worked and how long you've worked on this, because I started working on it when I worked here. So thank you for keeping and pursuing it. It is money that, part of the boat registration money that goes in that supports our marine program also does this. So thank you for that. But a question, for years, one of the complaints of River Hills ramp is that it is not steep enough to launch boats, and then there's the little mound behind the boat ramp created by the prop wash. Is that going to be addressed in the renovation?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is.
Great, thank you. That's the biggest complaint that we used to have. I have no other questions, thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Langfield?
And I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I have a question.
Oh.
if that's okay. And I'll come back to you. after.
Okay,
Mr. Langfield, at the Rotary Park boat ramp, on the space between the concrete boat ramp and the bridge, there's a sandy bottom, and it's commonly used for people to back their truck up and launch canoes or small john boats they carry. The other side's mud, but this side's kind of sandy. Is there any opportunity for enhancement of that area, some in this project, so that it makes it easier to launch canoes and?
I think if the budget allows for that, once we get the boat ramps done and the docks done, if there are funds left over, I can certainly reach out to the county and say, hey, we have some money left over. There's one more thing we would like to do, and that is to make an improved kayak launch at that facility. And I don't see why they would have any issue with that. I think that's right in line with what goes on with the boat
And
ramp.
that's a popular area for paddlers, because to carry your canoe or kayak at Lettuce Lake, it's a long walk from your car to the canoe launch. So a lot of people go to Rotary, but it's not really a designated area. I mean, it's used as such, but it's not really, so, okay.
Good point.
Other questions? Mr. Chambers, I believe you were prepared
I would
to.
like to make a motion that council approves the resolution of the interlocal agreement between the city and Hillsborough County.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
You let us know when the construction goes. I'd like to watch that.
Resolution is
I was
approved.
gonna say, I would vote yes if you would just say it once.
I
It's
think I've got
okay.
enough yeses.
I tell you, you gotta read through that slow. Next item on the agenda is a resolution approving the first modification of CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, project year 2019 and 2020. Finance Director Lynn Boswell. Where'd you go? Did you leave?
Just went out the door, watched, listened, and came back.
Oh, because I thought you left after the first one. Then all of a sudden you're here
Let's do
again.
this one too. A much more benign request I have for you this evening.
Very good. Welcome back.
Thank you. Lynn Boswell, Finance Director, here to request from you an approval of the resolution to extend the interlocal agreement on the CDBG with Hillsborough County. You're going to say, but we just did that a couple meetings ago. That was your 18-19 CDBG, and it was the second modification. This is the first modification for the 19-20. And this actually covers the timeline because we were unable to proceed with the projects in the time that we had that was in the original contract. This just extends the time, allows us to July 31st. I was assured by our Public Utilities Director, who's left, Troy, I was assured by him that he will get all of those completed by that time frame, and this resolution just allows us for that approval, and the county obviously would countersign. They are the ones who had brought that to our attention.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this? If not, council member questions for Ms. Boswell? If not, is there a motion approving the first modification to the interlocal agreement?
I move to approve the first modification approving the CDBG project year 1920 extension.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second by Councilmember Schisler. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No nays? Resolution is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Flip too fast. Council business. Is there any carryover business from previous council meetings? I have one quick item again. Bear with me. Calendar check. Oh, boy, I don't have it on here. Okay. So at the last council meeting, we had some discussion about a potential town hall meeting at Lightfoot. Council felt it prudent at that time to postpone the issue until February and see what our COVID situation was in February. I don't know what it's going to be in February. I have a tentative date. I believe it's the third Thursday in February, but I don't have it on my calendar, so I can't promise you. But it's late February. I think it's a Thursday night. And I need to know what the council's wishes are. We could move forward, and we can always cancel if you council feels it's prudent to cancel. I would propose that we do space chairs out in Lightfoot, cap the attendance at 50, which is according to the CDC guy and local guidelines, require the same things we require here, masks, temperature screenings.
I'll be there.
That's the 18th.
Is that, pardon me, I hate to be on my phone during the meetings, but unfortunately, it's the only calendar I have these days.
It's the 18th. Third, you said third Thursday?
I don't remember if it's the 18th or the 25th. I had some conversation with Mrs. Barlow. I think Mr. Stevenson was still out of town, so I'm not real sure if she... 18th, Lori? Okay, 18th. Thank you. Yeah, so it would be the 18th, if you guys want to do that. I don't need a formal motion, I just need you to
Yeah.
tell me yea or nay.
Yes.
I have one yes.
I have two public events that have just been postponed, and they were both in March. Now, and they were outdoors, and it was recommended that we not hold them. So if we did that with outdoor events, I'm not sure that I'm ready to do an indoor event, even though I hear people say, you know, well, everybody will be in a mask and whatever. I don't know. So I'm just still very cautious. And I know you are too, and please, you understand it. You know, I just, I don't know, is there any reason not to push it to March? You know, just make it like a quarterly, or make it April, make it a quarterly report, whatever, you know, whatever, well, that would be March. To give us even more time.
Council's decision.
That's just my only comment, is I know that those other two things have been postponed until April tentatively, and that's an outdoor event. So,
Well, events, I mean, I understand, and of course, one of the events is one of the Arts Council's events. I think that's one you're talking about, postponed. And I am leery also of a meeting inside if it's not necessary, and I'm not sure it's necessary on the 18th. A week later would be better, 2 weeks would be later. The numbers today, they started to show some downward trend. I would also hate to think that, you know, we're on the edge of vaccinations and people are starting to get them, and we get right to the finish line and we make a mistake. That's my concern on the 18th. I would feel better on the week after, and better the week after that.
Well, looking at the numbers, like Councilman Chambers just said, they are decreasing from the holiday spike, which is encouraging. However, this week I spoke to my friend who is a hospital physician, and she really encouraged continuing extreme caution. She says her own hospital, which is here in Central Florida, continues to be overwhelmed, and to have events that are not 100% like required, 100% necessary, she does discourage those. So I would have to say I'm in favor of postponing further.
Okay.
Or
Well,
perhaps-
we will put this off until some other time.
Can we discuss again next meeting?
No, well, we can, yeah, I mean, I don't get to say yes or no, we can discuss at every meeting, but I'm gonna move forward with something, I'm not gonna put, the public needs to know, there's a lot going on. They haven't heard from the mayor since the last informational video I did was in the spring. So I'm gonna do something. I don't know whether it's a video or whether I'm gonna have something in here with just me, a meeting with the mayor. It can't be a town hall meeting with just me, but I'm gonna do something. And you guys don't have to be, I would much prefer to be a town hall, but I'm not gonna have a town hall if you guys don't wanna have it. So I'll come up, I'll get together with Lori and the city manager, and we'll either do a small thing in here with just the mayor, or we'll do a video, or, but I'm gonna do something, because people need to be hearing from me.
you know what, I really want to encourage you to do that, because that was so well received. I don't know how many comments you've had, but I have had a number of comments of people who said, wow, that was great.
That's great, but you gotta remember that I don't have the resources that Tampa has. I don't have a television studio here. I can't just, be all over the place. I don't have a public relations person to tweet 3 times a day, or Facebook, or, right? So, people get to see me twice a month here, and at, 15 other meetings a week, but the public needs to hear from, well, they need to hear from us, I'm not saying that, but they need to hear from their elected officials, more than just here when we're passing resolutions. And so we can, yes, the answer is, of course, we can talk about having a town hall meeting in March, or April, or June, or July, or whatever you want to do. That's up to the council, the majority. and I'm not gonna pressure you guys to have a town hall if you don't wanna have one, but I'm gonna have one, or I'm gonna do something. So it won't be a town hall, but it'll be something. Because people need to hear from us, from
I would
me.
like to be there.
Hmm?
I would like to be there. I think it's important, you're right. They need to hear from our elected officials.
Well, we'll have to work through the logistics
That's fine.
of you being there, because that makes it a public meeting, so we'll have to try to figure something out with that. But, so I don't know what we're gonna do, but I'm gonna do something. So, okay. And that's all the council business I have. Is there other council business carryover from previous?
I got halfway done writing a comment, but I didn't finish it. I don't remember what it was now.
New business,
Okay.
board reports? Some of your board appointments are pretty new.
Very new, yes.
Yes, Mr. Chambers.
I mean, I got the email today from the city attorney about the tree ordinance. I don't know if it went to everybody.
Are you going to talk about that in your?
Was that part of your report?
Well, I wasn't planning on reporting on it. I just sent it out to everybody today because I just got it today. So I thought it's something that several of you have brought up already to me separately. And so I wanted to let you know that there was a bills being proposed to try to repeal that. And as you all know, we did have our own case here, and we may have another one soon too. So it was, as I said, it's something for you to consider as to whether, if we're going to do anything, if we're going to join with some of these other local governments, or will we send a letter or an email even to our legislators, our local representatives in Tallahassee, telling them that we either support it or we can say nothing. But I think that it seemed to me that there was some support amongst you with regard to some change in that particular Florida statute.
Mr. Chambers, was that anything else?
Yeah, if they're asking, the email asked if we want to direct city manager and city attorney to pursue these letters, and I would like that. So I don't know what procedure. Do you need a motion to do that, or just a consensus of council if we want to do that?
Can I ask a question prior to that?
Oh, nice, yeah.
And I saw you sent an email, but I've been in a funeral all day. I haven't had a chance to read it. Are you able to recap what the high points of the bill are?
I haven't read the bills in their entirety. It seems that there are two legislators in the Orlando area who are each sponsoring a bill, one in the Senate, one in the House, to repeal the statute.
Oh,
and as you
altogether?
know,
Restore it back to us.
Okay, okay, so it's not something we have to study a lot, it's just repealing.
no, I mean, and the statute itself was never anything to study a lot either, so that's it.
So the bill is essentially just to repeal the changes.
And restore this particular issue to home rule, so that the different, so that the different counties and the cities could govern how their trees are removed. So that's it. It's to basically restore home rule on this particular issue.
Assuming for a moment that the council tonight said, yes, we want to jump on board with that, what would we do? What would we direct you or Mr. Stevenson to do?
Go ahead.
Thank you. We've taken note of this at one of our previous meetings, that was one of the items that are not asking for funding out of the state, but one of those things that council wanted us to pursue. I think what we need to do is probably express our concerns and our challenges, if you would, with this ordinance as it exists. I know last year we shared that with Senator Lien and Representative McClure specifically, and the bill ended up getting passed anyway. And now with other legislators coming up with some bills to repeal the one, I don't know that it's been written yet, but I think what we need to do is reach out to our representatives, if not with a letter, personally, and say, this is one of those things we want you to pay attention to, because it is a concern of ours. And certainly they're hearing that from other jurisdictions as well. It's not just Temple Terrace. I mean, our argument last year when this happened was that you guys have got us designated as a Tree USA. Well, if we're designated Tree USA and we can't make any controls over what's happening to our tree canopy, that's kind of a contradiction, if you would. So I think if what I'm hearing from council is a nod for us to contact, I would love to contact our representatives and get on their radar so that they know this is still a concern of ours, and we can certainly document it with a letter. If they prefer to have something in writing from us, we can certainly prepare a letter for them. So it's easy enough.
Okay. Let me ask you this. If in fact this is action that the council wants to take, I would prefer if we formalize this, somebody makes a motion, we put this to a vote. And the reason why is because if you do that, I will then craft some letters to some of our key legislators and sign it as the mayor on behalf of the city council. But I don't feel comfortable writing letters as taking positions for the council unless the council says so.
You know, being in support of this, but I also a little hesitant to authorize something that I haven't seen a bill on. So I know the concept is good. We want control back of our trees, but I haven't seen the bill, so I don't know how to proceed on that. Any suggestions?
Our legislators can certainly weigh in our concerns when they bring the bill to the floor. I don't know that, I have not seen the bill. I don't know what's in the bill. But the article that came out basically was, they're looking to repeal the whole.
Well, what if, Mr. Chambers, not to cut you off, but what if if you agree, if you approved and crafted the motion to say that I could craft a letter telling our legislatures that we are in favor of repealing last year's statute, that pretty much sums it up.
I make that motion.
I'll second that motion, because what it says here is Senate Bill 596 and House Bill 6023 would repeal a section of Florida law that preempts such ordinances from local control to state control only. So that's exactly what we've been talking about, is it was preemption total of home rule. So and no one has contacted the state to see if they could take down a tree, right? It's all, they just take them down. So
Is that,
that is a second allowed.
does this all conform to your motion?
Yes.
And this conforms to your second?
Yes.
Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No nays. I would ask City Attorney, could you get with the city clerk and craft something for my signature? Let me know when it's ready and I'll come and sign it. That issue's, okay, Mr. Sister.
Yeah, I finally thought of what my issue was before. Mr. Tinch isn't here tonight, so I was just wondering, with the pavement analysis that he gave us at the meeting where you were gone, Mr. Stevenson, what is the process, what's going to be the process for that approval going forward? Are we going to have an opportunity to present him with questions? He gave it to us, and I analyzed it over the last 2 weeks, and I have some follow-up questions. What would be the best? He's not here, so what would you recommend?
Let me, is it questions that pertain to something that council needs to know, or are you just curious?
Well, I don't know. I was kind of hoping that we maybe even have a workshop on, I'm not calling for a workshop, but, some type of a communication with Mr. Tinch, because it may be questions that other council members had that would get, answer it once without having to, do it 5 times.
Why don't I suggest that we get him back here, maybe next meeting,
Okay,
and we'll set him up for question and answers on it.
okay. And then following, similar to, we're going to do the same thing for the sewer system?
We could do the same thing with the sewer system. I mean, I know you guys have seen that one as well.
Yeah.
And these are, again, keep in mind now, these are capital projects that are on a 5-year plan.
Right.
If we're talking about sequence, so you guys would rather see something go before the other, I mean, that's one of those things we can talk about at budget time.
Okay.
because that's really when these things are. But if you've got questions for him as to if you're replacing the pumps, why aren't you fixing the electric? Those are questions that he probably can answer real quick.
Would you rather us do it one-on-one or in session or what?
Well, again, it all depends on, I mean, if it's a trivial question like why are you doing the pumps and not the electric,
Yeah.
I mean, we may be able to answer that individually.
Okay.
If it is something that has to do with the capital schedule, that's probably something that we ought to vet publicly.
Okay. Okay.
Why don't you and I have some conversation?
Okay.
And see what kind of questions you have, and
All
then,
right.
and then we'll go from there, but
Sounds good.
we can certainly get him, you know.
Works for me.
I've asked for the sake of, crowd control, we've asked our directors to kind of watch TV and, not be here if they didn't have an agenda item, so that's why he's not here.
So we can volunteer him for something then, because he's not.
I didn't commit to that, but we could do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sisler. The only thing on that, if we do have him back, which is a great idea, I would ask the council members to kind of go through it and distill your thoughts so that we don't take a walk around the,
Yeah, let's not do
the
that.
county on this, because these are both big documents. So, we can get some of the minor stuff maybe cleared up ahead of time and focus on the big questions. So, thank you, Mr. Sisler. Any other new business or board reports? No? City managers report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got just a few things to kind of bring to your attention here. One of the things that I wanted to do at the last meeting that I didn't get a chance to do even for this meeting, but I will give you a brief summary. We're doing extremely well with spending CARES Act funding. We have purchased a boatload of equipment that is sanitation equipment, atomizers we're sanitizing our own buildings currently. Each facility has atomizers and disinfectant, and we've got a tremendous stockpile, if you would, of wipes and Lysols and sprays and disinfectants and gloves and masks and the whole 9 yards. I would like the opportunity, we shared a schedule with you when this first started. What I'd like to be able to do this week is work on updating that schedule and kind of give you an idea of things that are either underway or completed. We have completed a whole bunch of stuff and have purchased again, a boatload of equipment that obviously the money was intended for. One of the things that that we've been able to do is to expand our communications, basically, with not only virtual conferencing capabilities, which is one of those things that we looked at, and if we need to continue with video conferencing or even a town hall virtually. We now have a lot more capabilities than what we had before. We are continuing to buy the technology in order to do that, and also the licensing to do that. We've come a long way with it. We originally had $2.9 million. We spent about 1.6 so far. Again, we're finding it difficult to spend. That's an awful lot of money, but we haven't spent it on things that are controversial and things that we will not get in any questions about. I mean, we've been very prudent that it is COVID related. And staff has worked very diligently to make sure that we spend money wisely on things that are covered by this CARES Act money. So this week I'll try to update this spreadsheet that we've been working on, so that it gives you a real good idea of where we're at with a lot of these agenda items, not agenda items, but items that we had placed on the schedule previously. So look for that. I'll send that out electronically probably towards the end of the week. I know we haven't done a Friday report in a few weeks. We'll try to attach it to that if that's okay with everybody. Just an update on something. Some time ago in December or late November, we had approached the county with giving us some reimbursement for the maintenance of Temple Terrace Highway. We went through a couple iterations of that document. We're sending it over there. They sent it back. We tweaked it, sent it back over to them. They did approve that at the end of December. So that's for about $45,000 that is in the coffers moving forward. It is a yearly thing that we can depend on, and certainly is something that we thank the county for working with us, because we do spend an enormous amount of time and effort trying to keep Temple Terrace Highway clean and maintenance. I know it's something that we've been doing for a long time without any reimbursement, but certainly that's something that we hadn't built into the budget as well, just for your knowledge. The other thing is that I'm going to ask Lori to come up. We have expanded our communication platforms just a little bit since the last time that we had the ability to tell you what we're doing communication-wise. There's a couple of things that we have added to that that platform, if you would, for us to communicate to the public on things that are happening, things that are doing, their ability to contact us with information, and their ability to contact our website, if you would, to try to help navigate through the website. So if I can ask Lori to come up and kind of just give a brief synopsis of what we've been doing here in the last month. Thank you.
Welcome, Ms. Hayes.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor Ross. Laurie Hayes, Marketing and Communications Officer. As you know, communication to residents about city programs and services and events is an ongoing challenge, especially for those people who lack access to a computer or the internet, or who choose not to participate in social media or go to the website. As I mentioned last fall, my office expanded our communication efforts by adding a important info line that people can access, and that number, as a reminder, is 813-506-6644. And that has announcements, important news, closings, all that kind of stuff. Thanks to the help of my assistant Nathan, tomorrow we are activating another avenue of communication, this time via text. Recognizing that texting is the most preferred means of communication at this point, the city is contracted with TextMyGov, which is a service that will allow residents to report issues and get information via text. After a quick sign-up process, residents can text 813-430-1660 to report a missed sanitation pickup, a code violation, a pothole, or any other kind of concern like that. He or she also can get an immediate automated response to dozens of frequently asked questions. If the answer isn't among the pre-programmed responses, they will get a response that sends them to the appropriate page on the website so that they can find that information there. For example, if someone texts pothole to that number, they're going to get a series of prompted questions that will allow them to put in the nearest address. They can even upload a picture of it. And then that information will be sent to the appropriate person at the city to respond to. Also, if you text Parks and Recreation, you'll either be given an option to be taken to the main Park and Rec page on the website, or you can dig in further and say that you want information on parks, you want information on fitness classes, and it will again take you to the appropriate page on the website. The software is set up in a way that allows us to learn more about what citizens are interested in. We can get to the back end and we can see the kind of questions that people are asking, and if they're not getting to the information quick enough, we can fix that and we can add in more keywords to make sure that they're getting the answers they want. We did a lot of research on what the public has been asking. We downloaded a report of the things that people are frequently searching the website for, and those sort of formed the keywords that we already pre-programmed so that they can get to that information. Residents can also register to receive texts from the city regarding special announcements, news, events, and programs. You can opt into the mass notification system by texting Temple Terrace to 91896. And to dovetail on what Charles was saying, because this is an avenue to convey important information about health and safety, we were able to pay for this service through the CARES Act funding. We will also be promoting this service by, all of the usual means, and I'm going to ask for your help in doing that, particularly since we are trying to reach people who don't necessarily access the internet. Hopefully they're watching tonight. And to that end, I'll be sending you an email that has some more information about it, so you have the information to convey to the constituents. And should this prove useful and be well received, we'll hope to continue the service even after this initial 1-year period at a cost of $5,000 per year. My office has also been focusing on expanding the offerings of our cable channels, Spectrum 641 and Frontier 39, and via a bulletin board feature that's conveyed on monitors that have been in City Hall for quite a while, are now in Lightfoot, the library, and the rec center. The content includes slides that highlights each of our facilities, as well as conveys important announcements, holiday closings, and other information. We're also posting short videos. We have produced 2 with the city manager, one that offers just an overview of city services, another that explains the transition to the new sanitation program that we just launched. There is also a recycling tutorial of sorts that we did with Public Works Director Ray LeBlanc, and more content is planned for the future. It will be updated on a regular basis, and it could certainly include a mayoral address. So it's a great way to push that information out.
You now have an office.
Hopefully you've also noticed both the new mobile signs that have been deployed throughout the city. Those are the ones that were reiterating that the mask ordinance was still in effect, to let people know that their cans would start arriving soon. And then, of course, the new big electronic signboards that are at City Hall and also at Lightfoot and at the library. And just one last thing, in closing, I wanted to thank the city manager and you for allowing me to put into the budget a part-time assistant. Nathan has proven to be a very valuable asset, and his presence is really paramount to making all these things happen. Apparently there's a tremendous difference between a solitary effort and having just a little bit of help. So I thank you for that. And I'm happy to answer any questions, but I will be sending that information out to you so that you can get it out to everyone.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Any questions for Ms. Hayes? Councilmember Abel.
I just want to say, wow, that's really great, especially what you said about being able to text and get information that way. And I think that'll really help people get connected with the information that they need and make them feel like they're being responded to really quickly. And that's definitely the way of the future, like you said. So thank you so much for putting that together. I think that's brilliant.
Thank you. Yeah, we're pretty excited about it, and I think it will be very responsive, and it will give us, yet another avenue to reach people that we might not be reaching.
Other questions for Ms. Hayes? Questions, comments? Very good. Thank you, Lori. I do want to say, I'm not sure who to commend on this besides the city manager. I'm not sure more people had a hand in it, but these electronic...
I worked on it. I just signed the bill.
The electronic boards out here, all 3 of them, they look wonderful. And we all knew what the message part of it was going to look like, but the architecture, the design, the workmanship on the rest of it, they really look like Temple Terrace. They look really good, so thank you.
Actually, I got to give credit where credit is due. I gave that to Ms. Barlow as her COVID project. So she pretty much took the ball and ran with it.
Well, Jeannie did a great job because they look good. They look like Temple Terrace.
Yeah, we're my only regret is that they should have been bigger, but.
Yeah.
You have codes, Mr. Stevenson.
No more money for you. We're still under, okay, Vice Mayor Donahue.
I have a question for city manager. A couple of months back, we said we were going to have to dip into the reserves to pay for software or bandwidth or.
Body cameras. The server for the body camera.
Right, so is that now going to be covered? Because the reason we went beyond our normal use was because of these virtual meetings and all these different things.
That was police body cameras. It was
So that was only because of body cameras?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can cover our cost. Part of our cost is built in for video conferencing and licensing and everything else. That is COVID-related money. the body cameras was not COVID-related. That's.
So it was 100%
Mr. Ross
because
was
of
talking
body
about.
cameras? Okay.
The additional cost in bandwidth was not a budgeted item this year, but we have put it into our schedule of COVID expenses.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we make sure he's done with his report
Yeah,
first. Are you
right.
done with your report, Mr. Stevenson?
Yes, sir, I'm done. Thank you.
Your sister has a
Yeah,
question.
Mr. Stevens, a couple of questions. When are we going to have another CRA meeting?
It's scheduled. Yeah, it's a-
It'll be in February?
February 16th.
Okay, because I was just wondering what the, you know,
That is our regularly scheduled.
all right, I was just curious, has anything changed with the Enigma property, the old post office?
I'll give you a brief, the Enigma property, remember the civil engineer had passed away unexpectedly. I know that he is engaged with a local civil engineer, and he is picking up the pieces, and we're moving forward with it. It's moving slow because of the situation that we're in, but it is moving forward. So, Mr. Singh is still stuck in Trinidad, though. They told him he can leave, but he can't come back. That's the last I heard. So,
A secondary question then. What, you probably don't know this number off the top of your head, I'm sure you don't, but could you let council know next meeting, what is the total value of all the current construction that's going on? I mean, we have building going every part of the city. And I think that'd be a good number for the constituents to know the value of what we have that's developing in the city.
I will get council that number. I do not have that number off the top of my head, but you're
Well,
right. It is enormous.
I have that. I saw that recently from.
And I thought I'd sent that out in the Friday report.
Yeah, you did. It's got all the open permits and the value and the square footage. We have it. I can't remember the bottom line, but.
I will get it up and we'll recycle it this
Yeah,
Friday.
you've sent it. I know we have it.
I thought that I did.
Yep. It's a lot.
I'll recycle it this Friday
It's a big
for
number.
everybody.
It's an important number for everybody to be aware
Yeah,
of.
it's a lot.
I have one
Questions, Vice Mayor?
question about the Paragon buildings. There doesn't appear to be any glass on 56th Street. Are we going to be looking at the back of those buildings on 56th Street?
I will check into that because that's one of the conditions that we gave him on
so.
site plan approval was that he had to have some kind of glazing on 56th Street.
There's very little.
We approved his site plan.
Right.
I think Mr. Chalora brought that up, if I remember correctly. And there were some modifications made, and I will make sure that gets incorporated.
Thank you.
I know that we talked about that.
Other questions for Mr. Stevenson? No? City Attorney's report?
My only report is that I wanted to let you know that the legal department in the city of Temple Terrace has an intern right now. She is a student at Thomas Cooley Law School. Her name is Emily Basham. I was told initially that she was supposed to be an extern, but I feel like I see her every day here, so she must like it. So we kind of have an intern. This is at no cost to the city. She gets credit from her law school for the works that she is doing with us. So just wanted to let you know that we have somebody.
What law school did you say?
Thomas Cooley Law School. So, no, that's not in St. Pete. I'm not quite sure what town that's in, but it's in Florida. So.
How long is she here for?
We've got her for a few months. So.
That it?
Yep.
Okay. Is there other business to come before the council tonight? Anybody else have any business? City manager, directors, council members? If not, we are adjourned.
Last time, I was shivering. This time,
Yeah.
I was like,
I know.
the teeth were